Hello and welcome to the Stafford Education Masterclass. On a Monday afternoon, we have a really lovely mashup of a recipe today for you, and an even lovelier staff to present it. As normal, guys, all questions, just put it in the chat. We'll answer all your questions as we go through the presentation, or we'll try to answer them all. And as always, no such thing as silly questions. Just keep them questions firing on anything about the recipe or the recipes you're doing at college or anything to do with the industry. We're more than happy to answer all your questions today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our one and only staff, Dayna Roach.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. Thanks for the intro, Lee. It's been lovely.
You're welcome.
Yeah, guys, so today we're going to just jump on straight in. I'm going to teach you or show you how you can adapt some highlighting techniques. So I know that some of you guys are on the level 2 and some of you maybe even on the level 3, and we're going to mash up a couple of little kind of recipes together. So I want to show you a way that we can use banding to be like creative. A lot of the time we only ever think of banding to like remove color or fix something that is within the hair, and it's a bit, it's technical, it's a bit boring-ish if if that's not your bag. But what I'm going to show you today is just a little way you can just mix it up and make it more fun. The technique I'm going to show you as well is really nice to use. You can adapt it in so many different ways. So you've got a few options which we'll work through, and remember to double check and ask me what they are, because my memory is shocking. So I'm going to probably, I'll make sure I can fit it in there for you as well. So,
What is this a mashup of today, Dayna? What recipes?
It is, it's almost like a mashup of highlights and / the Belgian waffle for the level 3. Some of you guys may have seen it and some of you may not have seen it, depending on where you're at in your learning journey. But in the Belgian waffle recipe, there's a few ways where we, when we're taking our sections for our highlights, where we lay the foil back straight on top, so we don't actually have another kind of foil going in between, using slices the whole way through. So we're just essentially using one foil and then laying all of the hair back onto that and following our pattern through, which will make sense once I show you kind of where we're going. Again, the really nice thing about this is that you can adapt it depending on what your clients what they kind of want to do with their color. So kind of choosing color placement or highlight placement is really tricky. Well, it's not really tricky. It's tricky when you're trying to figure everything out. Once you've got a few little foiling patterns or placement techniques in your bag, then it becomes a lot easier to pick and choose which one you use. For this, what we're going to do is I've just gone through, just split the head into our center back parting. So we've got our 2 sections. We've then, I've taken out a section. So our front quadrant, I've kind of taken a little bit out from the hairline so we can actually see some color that will pop through that hairline. And then I've also just taken it to the top of the ear. So we're going to be working diagonally. Well, we're going to be working back from the hairline, from the back of the head towards the hairline. So that section is just like a little diagonal piece that's going to pop around the front. So the nice thing about this is it will sit really nicely underneath all of the other hair that sits over the top. And you can adapt this to depending on what your client does for work. Potentially, maybe they've got quite a conservative job and they aren't able to have anything too extreme, or you just maybe want to just add a little pop of color through there. But it's kind of really nice when you work in sections underneath and around the hairline, because it does, when all the rest of the hair sits over the top, it kind of is almost like a little bit of a peekaboo piece. You can style it back if you want a little bit more bang for your buck, or you can kind of cover it up if you're needing to do that for work and such. So please let me know if you can see what I'm doing here. I feel like it's maybe a little bit too far away for you to see exactly, but let's get in there. So what we're going to do,
looks good.
We're ready. Do you guys have, do you know what colors we're going to do? I'm kind of just going to see what happens, right? See what happens. Maybe it's a rainbow. Maybe it's something really subtle. But it's
rainbow. Don't tease us.
Maybe I let the cat out of
Is this a technique that you would use a lot in the salon?
It's a technique that I wouldn't say I'd use elements of it a lot, but color selection potentially it wouldn't be for everyone. But the nice thing about it is that you could use this. Yeah, you could mix this up a little bit depending on the client and what their needs are.
So it's reasonably commercial. You could take elements like from all the recipes, really. Absolutely.
Like all the recipes are really commercial, aren't they? Like they are fantastic. They're a really good way of they just show you a really classic way of doing something, but at the same time, they're fun and they're really usable. I know all of our apprentices, we all use the LSE recipes for our apprentices as well. And half the time, I mean, I even do haircuts that are the recipes as the recipe, straight out of the book. That's kind of what we do, which is really nice.
Tell me this, with your assistants, your apprentices, when you say you use the recipes, in what context do you use them? How would you use them in your training within the salon?
So what we do is, so I guess I'm lucky enough to be able to have access to the recipes. So when our apprentices they don't go to a Stafford college like you guys. We're not blessed with that around in our area at the moment. So what happens is they get taught one of the college ways, and then I would then reteach them the ways of Stafford, essentially. So we just use it as an extra bit of a boost for them to be able to get the most out of it, and just show them it's really great in their training that they can watch a video. Then they've got the recipe book that you can go back and follow. Then they can watch it at home. Some of the guys have even been watching the masterclasses as well. So it's a really nice way to, they use it in so many different ways. If they're not free or someone is, they've got a spare bit of time, then they'll just jump on and watch the class themselves. It's nice for reference, really. And I think as well, there's no room for error. Like everything in all the recipes, guys, is so, it's so straightforward. Like you can literally follow it step by step, which is super easy, and practice makes perfect. So the more you get to practice these, the better.
Talk us through what you're doing. That looks very interesting, Dayna.
Sorry, I've gotten really into this now. I forget that I need to tell you guys what I'm doing. So what we're going to go through is we're working through our, we've taken a vertical section from our front section that we've left out. So that really skinny kind of front quadrant that we've got there. We're working from the back part of that section. We're lifting the hair out vertically. I don't know if you can see that in through here. It's coming straight out from that head. And we're applying our color in little bands as such the whole way down. And then we're going to basically repeat this back as well. So what will happen when we finish this, the hair is going to shift. So at the moment, all the hair strands are kind of sitting straight back from the head. So when they shift, they're going to almost sit slightly, they'll sit more straight down. So then that will then just diffuse this kind of line. So it softens that line with elevation rather than have to soften it with blending, which is really nice. So, and you can adapt this as well. Like if you want this to be a bit of a heavier, kind of more banded, like kind of harsher, I wouldn't say harsher, stronger result, then you could literally lay this kind of, take horizontal sections. And as you're working horizontally down the head, you're then going to be able, you'll be creating quite heavy lines through there. Going vertically just keeps it a little bit softer. Kind of like when you're cutting, right? If you take anything, use vertical graduation or you can use horizontal graduation, right? So one's going to give you a little bit more weight than the other, and one's going to be a little bit stronger, softer than the other. So it's a similar kind of thing. So we're just working through our rainbow. As we do this, it's really nice to work with the colors that work well together, so that are complementary, rather than colors that are, so say for example, we're going to work with all the warmer tones and then we'll switch to something that's a little bit cooler and then warmer. So then when we do have our blend where some of them may almost seep together, what that's going to do is just kind of our orange and our yellow, you will have a warmer kind of orange yellow in the middle. When you go to say like your green and your yellow, which is a cool and a warm, that's going to give you kind of a lighter green through there. So everything just kind of works really nicely as we work through there as well. So
what would happen if you had two colors that so you wouldn't want to put two colors together that would give you another color or a definite different color if they were mixed together?
Yeah, this is it. You could do if you wanted to, but I think it is almost being aware of what happens to that color when you do mix them together. So if we go back to our color wheel, which is something that you guys will be really familiar with, if we go back to our color wheel, if we're going to be putting, say, like a blue and an orange together, what will happen is we're going to end up with a really murky color in the middle of our banding. So we just don't want it to neutralize. We still want them to complement each other. So as we're working through, I'm just going straight back over the same colors that I had done before. So I've taken another slice out of this, but I haven't woven any of the hair in between. It's just a full-on slice that we've got through there. And we're going to lay that over the top. We don't want to take our slice too thick. We still want to be able to see our hair that we've previously colored underneath that, so we know exactly where we're going and we get our saturation right. So sometimes as well, if we're taking our, if even this is something when you're highlighting some low lights into the hair where the color's a little bit darker, if you're taking your sections too thick, what will happen is, and you're not adding enough color, your color may come out spotty, a bit messy. This is something that is really important to remember. The smaller sections and more saturation we get, the better lift we're going to get when we're highlighting. And then also the better coverage we'll get as well. So we will have a color that is much more full of color. It's not patchy or anything like that at all.
What colours wouldn't you mix together, Dayna?
I would say anything opposite. Well, it depends really. Like if you're mixing something, if we're going to be blending a color together, it's always, I would say anything opposing on the color wheel. So say an orange and a blue. We know when they get mixed together, they don't create a very nice color. But say for example, if you were to mix a red and a blue together, you're then going to have your purple. It's remembering it, going back to that color wheel and remembering what happens when you mix something together. So in answering that question in a really roundabout way, I would say I would tend to stay away from mixing anything on opposite sides of the color wheel. That's not saying that you can't do that. It's just making sure you know what happens when that does happen. Cool. So we're just working through our bands. And what you will find is as well, at the top, at the root area, I've got a very slight gap through there where I've actually I haven't colored the root of that slice. So what we're going to do with this, and this is where it will change as well as we work through, what we're going to do is go back and paint right on to that root area. I don't know if you can see through this video very well, but we've got yellow through here.
Very well.
Almost like about a centimetre, say maybe a little bit more on that root area. So what I'm going to go back through and do is work out where we go. So we've gone yellow, orange, red, purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, red, purple. So then we're going to go through here. So our green is our color that would become before that yellow. So I'm going to paint that right onto that root area. And remember, these are fine slices.
Or you could just do that all one color, couldn't you?
You could do this all one color. If you wanted to and you didn't want to play around with the banding, you could easily just go through here and take your slices as one the whole way through. That would work totally fine. You can leave that.
Could you do a balayage on it as well? Could you do a balayage kind of thing?
Absolutely. Again, it's kind of playing around with where you want that color to kind of sit. So you could do something similar to this, where you might just want to do this through the end, and then kind of soften it out to that kind of root. So the root stays stays natural potentially. If a client is wanting to have a really low maintenance color, then you could easily let that kind of sit natural, and this kind of works really, really well, especially with the rainbow on darker hair. But there's no reason why you couldn't actually do part of this throughout the ends. You could hide some pieces through. So what I was saying earlier about being able to maybe mix it up a little bit instead of just doing a really heavy panel through the front, you could actually take out panels where you might do like 3 slices together. So your foil, essentially that slice might be the width of your finger, say like a centimeter or so. You could do some back-to-back slices together throughout the head. And you could probably work in like a diagonal section, something like that, leaving the crown out, working all underneath. So then they have little pops of kind of that color coming throughout, which is also really pretty. It's kind of totally just, I know when we talk about, especially with some of my apprentices that we have, they get to like, we know how to do a full head of highlights, right? Like everyone knows the full head of highlight technique. Like they know it down, they know the foil placement. But when someone comes in and they go, oh, I don't really want, how I do it, maybe I want a half head of highlights, or they've seen something on Instagram where the hairdresser has been doing highlights in a different pattern, and my apprentices say to me all the time, oh, I need help with foil placement. How do I work out my placement? And it's almost kind of going back and having a look at the haircut, discussing with the client about what they want to see. Do they want it to be more obvious? And just starting to play around with color in ways as well. Like that's one thing I know our guys are like, I just want one way to do everything, but there's not. And it's about being creative. And like it goes back with all the recipes as well. When you know it inside and out, that's the time when you can break the rules, which is so true though. Okay, so we're coming back through. We're taking another super fine slice over the top. These slices are probably about 1/2 centimeter thick. So we can still see our color through the underneath of that slice. So we know exactly where we're going to go through there as well. So it's always nice
Could you also highlight this out and do a similar thing or not?
Yeah, you could do. So when you're highlighting, when you're using highlights, you're essentially taking a weave of hair out, aren't you? So it's different to a slice. So when you're slicing, you're coloring all of that hair that you've just taken. When you're doing a woven highlight, for example, you're going to be keeping some hair and leaving some hair out. So when you're taking a woven highlight, I would almost think that it's going to look a little bit softer than what it would when you're doing a slice, because we're coloring less hair and it's more diffused. So if a client wants a really, really soft result, absolutely you could do something like this.
What do you find you're doing most of in the salon? Do you find you're doing more slices or highlights?
It totally depends, actually. I would think at the moment we're doing a lot more slicing. And then this is where we kind of even come to do, say like a client's got like a foliage, or a balayage, we would sometimes mostly take some slices because people want like strong results right now. It's starting to, it's going to get warmer soon. People are starting to think about their colors, for the summer. Everyone's gone a little bit deeper. They want to start working their way to being blonde again, potentially, or they've gone through and they've had balayage for so long and they're just done with that now. Like they want to then be able to be brighter through the top. So it's really nice and to do slices probably more at the moment. But again, it's depending on the client. It totally depends on the client.
So just to let everybody know that it's Dayna's birthday today. So happy birthday, Dayna.
Thank you.
And Dayna's opening up a new salon tomorrow as well. So not only is it her birthday, she's with us, but also she's opening up a new salon tomorrow. And I hear that, you've still got a lot of work to do before you open that salon, right, Dayna?
This is it. I've just found out just before this call that our masterclass today, that the plumbers need to replumb all the basins back in because he let his apprentice do it and he's made a little mistake, so it all has to be redone. But remember, we celebrate failure, right? We have to.
It's the attitude.
This is
That's
it.
the attitude. Every cloud.
This is it. So it's been a little bit stressful, but it's really exciting. We had all of our team in at the weekend. We were closed for a couple of days while we were painting, and all the team got together and they were living their best life. So it's been fun.
Yeah. So you're going to have a 10-seater. Is it 10 or 11-seater?
10 seats.
10-seater. Wow. And just for the students, I mean, how did you open up a salon? I mean, how did that happen?
So guys, I never opened a salon thinking I was going to have a salon. I'm always someone that's really big on opportunity. I think when an opportunity presents itself to you, you just have to take it with both hands and like run, right? Like you never know what will happen out of those things. So I was doing a client, I was doing her hair for her, and she was doing some nails and stuff for me. So I went into her salon one day and she said, would you ever work for anyone? Would you ever work for yourself? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I've always been like an employed hairdresser. I've never in my life ever thought about being self-employed. But I was at a point where you kind of like, what's going to happen next? Am I going to be behind the chair forever? I was happy to do that. I love my job. And I thought, no, do you know what? We just got to give it a go. I phoned my mum, as you do. You always phone your mum, give me some advice. What should I do? She's like, well, I think it's about time you did something. So I started with myself in the back of a salon. So I had no team. I had 2 chairs in this back of this lady's nail salon where she did nails in the front and I had like a room in the back. And then the salon had just kind of evolved from there. I started self-employed, just trying to do my own thing. And then I kind of worked my way up to needing an assistant. So then I had an apprentice. The nail lady eventually left. So then I took over the whole space. Then we needed we're getting really busy. So I needed an extra team member. So it kind of evolved from there. The extra team member.
Slowly but surely, right?
Yeah, this is it. So 4 years ago was when I first opened. So 4 years now, and we've gone from like initially 2 chairs with just me working behind a fireplace in the back of this building to then taking over the space and now having a new salon, which is only 2 doors down the street from my old one. So yeah. Nice and close.
And tell me this, how long did it take you from being a student, like the guys that are watching today, to opening up, your own business?
Gosh, we keep joking that I've been hairdressing longer than longer than the age of our apprentices. So I've been about 19 years. So I would say my maths is terrible, 15 years ago.
15 years.
It's taken a long time. I think people do it. You can do anything, right? If you want to do something, you can make it happen. For me, I liked the security of working for someone. I felt that I hadn't known enough yet. For me to do this, I felt like I needed to know my job inside out, just like learning one of those recipes. Before I could mix it up, I had to know exactly what I was doing. And I had to feel like I knew. It does take a long time. I'm still learning. There's things now that, still happen. But
and how have you handled the business side of things? Because that's really different, isn't it? Going from being a stylist on the floor, it's all about just hair, to opening up your own salon. There's a whole business side of things that comes in.
Absolutely.
The arena, right?
And I'm not good at stuff like that. So I try and I ask as many questions as I can. Oh gosh, I Google like crazy, speak to other salon owners, talk about lots of bits and pieces, get help from the NHBF, like the National Hair and Beauty Federation. They've been really good with all of your any help that you may need. They've been fantastic with that. It's just asking loads of questions and trial and error. I've made so many mistakes, like so many. And it's just part of it, right? It's just a journey and you learn as you go. which is the fun part.
Absolutely. Julie's just asked a really good question. She said, how would you avoid the colour bleeding when shampooing off?
Good question. So the trick is cold water. So any vivid colours that we use, cold water is the key. So it just helps keep that cuticle closed, and it stops it from staining. And I would say, in a case like this, actually, you don't want to be messing it up or rubbing it around too much while that color is bleeding. Literally just get the hose, the shower head on there and run it through with cold water. I would warn your clients first before you start, because they can get a little bit surprised. You don't want them to jump out of the chair and be like, what the hell? But cold water is the key. And this is the thing.
Good question, Julie.
Good question. That was a great question. When you're at home as well with these colors, I think sometimes clients expect a lot from these, from any kind of vivid color. But what can happen, we all know they fade, right? And a client's unsure about how it's going to last or what they can do with kind of the fading. But I would always say it's really important to explain to them to use cold water at home as well, just to keep all of that color locked in. So
and how does this kind of fade out? What's your experience?
So it doesn't fade, like some tones fade out really nicely and other tones tend to kind of stain the cuticle and stick to the hair. So anything that's got like a blue base, so anything green or blue, even violet, the deeper and more richer the tones, or the more vibrant the tones are, the longer, the more that the longer they take to fade out. If something is pastel, it can fade out in a few washes. So all of your reds, or even like your pinks, the rose golds, anything like that are really fab for a client who just wants something for a change. They're not too high maintenance where they're then going to have to cleanse someone's whole color out to make them blonde again, essentially. But the blues, greens, and the purples tend to, anything with that blue pigment can stain a little bit and can stain the cuticle, which is a bit crazy. So if you've got a client who is always wanting to change their mind, I would probably stick with something like pastel or something that doesn't have any of those blue tones within that. And thanks for all the birthday love, guys. I feel really special.
Yeah, you're getting a lot there. Babes.
I need to have one of these in my business every year. Thanks.
Could you move it a little bit closer? I mean, we've got a good view of it, but it'd be nice to get a bit more of a close-up.
Is that better, guys?
That's great, look at that.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's amazing already, isn't it?
I know, it's quite fun, even like this.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're just literally, when I'm putting the color on, I'm just meeting just where that line is. I don't want to then merge that too far. So we're just meeting that line. And then I'm going to flip my brush to the other side so I can get a really nice clean line on the other side as well. And I like to try and keep my brushes clean so we don't have color everywhere on our brush. Sometimes, so I know we've got some messy stylists. We've got one in the salon and he gets stuff everywhere. You can probably think of one as we're talking about this now, but I don't know how he doesn't go home covered in color. It's everywhere.
Imagine what his kitchen's like.
I know, right?
Laura's just asked a question. She says whenever she's used blue or green in her hair, it's really hard to get out. Why would that be?
That would be because that blue pigment stains the cuticle. So when you're working on like a direct dye or any kind of vivid color, they don't have an oxidant with them, so they don't work their way into the cortex and then expand, and then they don't do that. So what they do is they sit on the cuticle layer of the hair, essentially. So with some of the blue and anything that's got that blue tone in there, so the blues and the greens, what you'll find is remember, green, we mix blue and yellow together to make green. And it's still got that blue pigment. What that does, it stains the cuticle of the hair. So with the reds and some of the warmer tones, they don't necessarily have that. There are some most brands, any kind of vivid color you will find, the blue is always going to stain the cuticle. It's just what it is, which is really hard. So if you've got a client,
you would have thought though that it would have been harder to get out if the color would have gone inside the hair.
Totally.
Inside the filter, to not just lay on the top.
Absolutely. And now you're finding that you're using different removers. So when you're trying to remove any vivid color from the hair, they've now brought out like back to base, or it's a different technology it's not a pre-lightener, it's a color remover, but it works on kind of shattering the pigment and letting that kind of breaking it up and letting it kind of fall out, opposed to like shrinking the pigment. But those blue tones, even when we use the specific color remover with that, they do tend to still stick into the hair. The darker that they are, the harder the more blue pigment is in there. But it's quite crazy, really, what can happen. And then you've also got another little one as well, is any kind of purple pigments as well. So remember, we've got a violet or a purple. How do we make that? We've got blue and red, right? So what happens is the color fades, but then the blue tends to stick to the cuticle, which stains the cuticle. But then as the color's faded, our undercoat starts to come to the surface. So what happens with our undercoat? They tend to be warmer tones. If we're working on a blonde, they're going to be like a yellow. So your purple or your violet starts off purple, then it loses that fade, then it will get to like kind of a bluey color. As the yellow undercoat comes through underneath, it's then going to mix with the blue and becomes green. So you probably have some clients who've had purple and their hair's ended up green. They're like, what the hell's happened? Why have I got green hair? I wanted purple. But it's because of the staining of the blue. But Georgia, yes, blue stays in forever. It's so annoying. We had a client the other day come in, I want to be blonde, and she's got blue hair. We're like, are you dreaming? We need the clippers out.
Excuse me for a second, Dayna.
No problems. All right, guys. So as we're working our way through here, I'm just going to be working through that hairline. So I'm going to keep sticking my blue down. And I'm feeling that I want to have a really nice blue pop of color that will come through this front section. So what I'm going to do with this piece that we've got through here, I'm going to then bring this through. We're going to paint the very root of that blue. And we're going to then start to still create our rainbow through there. I hope you guys are liking this. It's been fun to do, and it's fun to show you what we can do. We need to just stick that color down as well, making sure it's not moving from where we're at. Working really nicely in our bands. The smaller the band that you make, will change the result as well. There's some really cool like holographic hair out there where you can mix this into do some really, really pastel tones, and they kind of look like a bit of an oil slick within the hair. They look really cool. Definitely give that a go if you can. They work really nicely. What are your favorite colors though? Do you have any favorite colors you like to do on a client? Do you like vivids? Is it nice to see something a little bit brighter? Cool. Have you guys ever done this and then you kind of forget which color you're at? Where am I at? What's going on? It's good fun. Cool. We're just kind of working all of our way through here. Lots of saturation. Making sure we keep the hair nice and vertical. Loads and loads of color. We've got our green to come. So we have as well, I don't know if you guys tend to use like head sheets or anything like that, but they're fab to be able to write all of your foil placement down on. So if you get a little bit lost and you're not really quite sure where to go, or you can't really remember it, you can't visualize it off the head, grab a print off like a head sheet and then just draw your foil patterns and sectionings on there. They work really, really well, and they're just good to jog your memory as well. Cool. I love seeing clients with vivid colours, random hidden pops under the hair on a natural. This is it, Lauren. That is my favourite too. It's so nice because some people have really conservative jobs where they can't get out and about, they can't play around with their hair. But if you're able to create a little pop of colour through there, it's like the perfect thing to be able, they can have a bit of fun. You can do like a really cool hidden rainbow underneath at the, at the nape. So when they tie it up, they see that. But when they're, having their hair down, you can't see anything. That's really, really fun. That's nice. You can get a ton of different bits and pieces to be able to do. I think hidden pops are my absolute favourite.
And do you think vivid colours are still as popular?
I think so. Yeah, I think they are. I think people are, it depends. Everyone wants to kind of express themselves these days, right? And how do you get to do that? Being able to change hair colour is really cool. There's lots of places now where they're starting to change maybe uniform and things like that, where they may not have accepted that before, but now they're really loving it and they're letting people embrace themselves. I think it's good. I think definitely it depends on your client base, right? So some salons may be targeted at or may attract a load of clients that do want something really natural and really soft, or they might just do blondes. Some salons do loads of different crazy colors and everything like that as well. So it's kind of almost, each salon will have its own tribe, and that tribe will be, or even a stylist has their own tribe, right? We've got one of our guys who loves vivids, and that's all he does all day is just doing bright hair, which is really cool. Which is really cool. Awesome, guys. What I might do as well, once I finish this section through here, I'm going to go through and show you a way we were talking about those hidden pieces where just underneath. I'm going to show you how you can do this maybe within like a foiled look, so we can keep it a little bit softer through there as well. Cool. So once we've done all of that, I'm just going to come through here and we are going to cover that up just loosely on top so the client can still see. And then I'm going to let that do its thing for the processing time. So I'll show you through here on our opposite side as well, where we were talking about being able to, this actually underneath is some hair that I've tried to cleanse out yesterday. It didn't want to come out, and that's a red. That's crazy. The blue did come out though. All right, so we want to work through the hair. I would say whenever you're doing any kind of foil kind of placement, think about where is the hair sitting, what do we want to see. We can see through here already with this piece that is been in there previously. We've got some really heavy pieces through the underneath, but once this sits over the top, we don't even see it hardly. But if you were to wear that up, you would then be able to, show off a lot of color through there, which is fun. So again, it's just looking at the haircut. Sometimes it's really nice to color a haircut rather than just do a color and then them have their haircut, because then you can pick out really nice little pieces. Even like, say, for example, I've got a fringe. You might want to leave some of the hair deeper over the top, and then you can, color the underneath of the fringe to give a little pop of color, something a little bit different. But it's picking out elements of the haircut that you want to enhance or that you want to soften, or, it's just having that question and start to talk to the clients about what do they want to see and just get involved, which would be cool. All right, Lee's got a competition question for a goodie box of products. What's the #1 best-selling Lee Stafford product? Oh, that's a tricky one. I don't know what that would be. Awesome. So guys, I'm going to show you here on a horizontal, just so we can mix up something a little bit different in there as well for you. One of the questions was, could we do this in more of like a balayage effect, yeah, we totally could. So I'm going to come through here. I'm actually going to take a bigger section because as you can see, and I'll show you through here, this slice that we've just taken, what happens is when we're taking a slice, there's a lots of hair on the root area, but as we get to the ends, there's not really a lot of hair that you're going to see that's being coloured once we colour that. So I want to make this a little bit thicker because I want to see a little bit more colour come through. Because it's important as well when we're remembering what we actually want to see. A balayage, most of the colour all comes from, is towards the underneath. So if someone's hair, say for example, they've got fine hair, but they've got really thick hair at the root, what's going to happen is the root's going to be quite heavy sometimes, but the ends are going to be almost really soft. So if you're doing any kind of colour that is just through the ends, what you want to do is visually look at what hair are you going to be colouring, and is that going to be enough? Are you going to see it? Because that little piece of hair may not be enough. So what I'll do is I'll then take a few more slices within there as well. Oh gosh, they're all coming through. Dry shampoo, curling cream, Coco Loco. That smells good. I love the smell of that one. I have to say that sea salt spray has got to be my favourite though.
I love that. Just to let you guys know, you've got to be specific because I have ranges of products like hair growth. I've got probably, I don't know, 16 products in the hair growth range, or just using that as an example. I'm not saying it is that, but just using that as an example. So be specific. What exact product is my #1 bestseller?
Oh. We've set off the salt spray.
Salt spray is a winner, though. I love that. So do you use that regularly on your own hair?
Yeah, we do. I love it for this kind of style that I have. It's really nice because it just gives you texture, a little bit of crunch. It stops it from being too flyaway. At the moment, when my hair is shorter, I kind of found that actually I love it when it looks a bit dirty, a bit grungy. Not too soft.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool, guys. So just working our way through. So we're working with these on a horizontal section opposed to a vertical section. It's much easier to be able to apply color this way. So much easier because you're not then trying to get your arms in little crazy different positions to try and get through there as well. So the only thing with this way is that remember what we're going to see. So the hair is laying flat in natural fall as it will. So what will happen is when we wash all of this off, it's going to stay exactly where it is. So whenever we kind of shift our foils or even our slices that we take and we kind of move them onto an angle, it then starts to soften that slightly. So it will start to soften the banding that we have, the lines in there. It will then diffuse that a little bit. And that just happens just with
So why have you chosen to do the colour placement at the front on one side, then at the opposite side on the back? Why did you not choose it to do it on the same side of the back? At the back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I think it's nice for kind of balance as well sometimes. So if you've got a little pop of colour in the front through here, then we can balance it out on the opposite side of the head. So then they've got another little kind of pop of colour that comes through the underneath. So, and it's really nice as well. This is all through the underneath. So when all the hair sits on the top, we're only going to see some little pieces of colour that come out. Maybe if they're wearing it half up and half down, they've got, you know, the front tied up and then they've got that little pop of colour through the underneath. But I think it's about balance, you know, for sure.
Gotcha.
Awesome. So I nearly got my colours mixed up then. Whew. Pressure, forgetting where I'm I have to say, I've been loving the celebrating failures at the moment. I feel like my team is so sick of me talking about let's make mistakes. Let's see how we can fail so we can learn how to succeed better. You know, like they're like, Dayna, just stop.
It's right. It's good attitude. The only attitude.
Something really crazy happens, and then you're like, why did you do that to that lady's hair? Well, we have to celebrate now. I'm not laying blame.
I mean, look, that's how you learn, right? You learn more from what you do wrong from what you do right. As long as you're learning from that. I mean, if you carry on doing the same thing wrong all the time, you need a little bit of a sit down and chat to, wouldn't you? But if you're learning from it, then it's all wins, isn't it?
Totally. This is it. It totally is like that, which is really cool. Have we got a winner? Oh, the exact product, guys. Do you know the names of the exact products? Do you use the products in college?
Oh, yeah. All the guys use the products, yeah.
Amazing. Love it. Once you get through the hang of this as well, guys, it becomes really nice and easy to be able to, you just get on a roll. It's just making sure you've got your color choice, you know, the order of your colors, and just keeping all your sections really nice and clean as well. That's the biggest thing, I guess, foiling nice, clean sections. No one wants to have bits of hair that are trying to kind of come over from somewhere else.
I mean, it looks very visual what you're doing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks really cool. It's quite fun to do on. It looks good during the process. No one's sitting there. The client's getting it already. You know, you've got all the different bowls of colors out. We've got them all kind of color coordinated with our colors in there. It's fun, right? It's not something that everyone would do, but it's nice to be able to play around with something sometimes. We're all creative people. Let's just, you know, get in there and have a go. For sure. And it's almost like when you're highlighting too, we always, I don't know, sometimes I forget you can talk, right? You get stuck into the groove, you've got a rhythm, you're doing your weave super well. It's just fun. And then before you know it, you've done your full head of highlights. You're about to have a nap because you've zoned out or zoned in. We're just going to work our way back down through here. But again, you may just want to do some of these pieces with just warm tones and not the rainbow, you know, the full rainbow, which is really cool as well. Just working color families. I think when you're choosing any kind of color selection, it's always nice to work with colors that are complementary to each other. So anything next to each other on the color wheel. And you can adapt that as well. Like you can make something, you know, super vibrant and mix that with something super pastel, and that works really nicely as well. Cool. Getting there. We've still got them coming through. Awesome. And we're going to finish on this little orange piece in through here. Just making sure I'm really just being gentle with where the sections are, where our bands meet. We don't want them to go too murky. Okay, so I'm going to place this over the top, and I'm going to let that process for its recommended development time. Would you guys like to see kind of the finished result? Do you want to have a look?
Absolutely. How long did you just say you'd leave that on for, darling?
So follow the manufacturer's instructions. These are going to be about 20 minutes generally. So have a little look, read the back of the bottles and see how you get on, or see what they are, what they recommend. And I would suggest leaving it on for the full time so you can get, you know, maximum results out of that there. Awesome. Let me take these gloves off. So guys, this is our finished result. So we've got a really cool little rainbow.
That looks beautiful.
And it's just tucked under. Where am I on this side? You've got all that hair that sits over the top.
Wow.
So someone really wants to get really, creative or get out there, they can make that, they can really show that piece off if they want to. They can keep it really soft and kind of cover that up if they want to as
lovely.
well. Oh, hang on. I forget this is kind of almost in reverse sometimes. But it's really nice to kind of have a little play around with all the different tones. And where we've got the tones and we've kind of went on a vertical, you can see, where are we? If I spin it through here, let me lift some of this out of the way. We can see how it's kind of softer. It's not too bandy. You can see that they've got, let me pop it on here instead of trying to hold that. That will make it easier for me. So as we've worked our way through, where we've kind of elevated in through here, it's then just slowly shifted the softness in there. So as that lays down, we can just see that we've got, our little colors through here, but then that line, instead of sitting kind of this way, now changes and it's slightly sat on diagonal. So it does just kind of can make that a little bit softer in between all of those pieces, which is a really nice.
Looks fantastic. Looks really, really nice. We're getting a lot of love there. Dayna, we really are. It looks really, really, and it's quite a very simple technique, isn't it? Really.
Essentially, we're just going through with our banding. We're just playing around with elevation as we're coloring, which I think sometimes elevation we only think about when we're cutting, but it is super important to be able to mix it up a little bit as well when we're doing color. We know the foundations, right? So it's nice to play around.
Looks really, really good.
I love that.
Looks really good. Yeah, thanks for that, Dayna. It looks amazing. So no one has got the question right so far. Would you believe that? I mean,
really?
People have nearly got there, but no one has actually named the #1 product. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go with the nearest to the #1. What do you think the #1 would be, Dayna?
Oh, I'm thinking it's going to be the heat protection.
Heat protection. That was our #1 product for many, many years, and it still is an amazing seller. But our #1 best-selling Lee Stafford product is Bleach Blonde's purple shampoo. So some people were saying Bleach Blonde ice shampoo, which is it's a different shampoo. So I'm going to have to go with the Amy Thornley, who came up first with Bleach Blonde shampoo. So Amy, if you let your lecturer know to send me an email and let me know what kind of hair you've got, so we can send a goodie box of Lee Stafford products out to you that will work for your hair. So thanks for all the engagement on that, guys. That was brilliant. Our next masterclass is on the 6th of March, which is 2 weeks away. It's going to be a mashup on the short grad, so that's going to be really, really exciting. That was a great presentation that you did today, Dayna. That was absolutely fantastic. Happy birthday, darling! And
Thank you.
Good luck with the opening of the shop tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to be a huge success.
Thank you.
And take care, guys. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. And yeah, just go out there and smash it. All right then. Take care, everybody.
Hey guys.
See you soon. Thanks, Dayna.
Bye.
See you soon.